That's us live. Hello and welcome to LinkedIn Uncovered. Thank you so much for joining us today. So whether you're on the live or on the replay, please leave comments and we'll aim to answer your questions as the show goes along, or certainly afterwards. Today, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Ed Forteau, the co-founder at Email Open Rate Optimization. Welcome, Ed. If you'd like to introduce yourself and give us a brief overview of what you help people with.
Thank you, Phil. Hey, man, I've been waiting for the call for months here. Been on the bench. Put me in, coach. Put me in. So when
Yeah,
you
well,
finally asked me, I was delighted.
it's all about timing, Ed. It's all about timing.
Yeah. Well, I've been practicing, man. I've been waiting to get in. So thank you for inviting me. Yeah, Ed Forteau with Email Open Rate Optimization. I'm the co-founder. We help fix underperforming email campaigns. And one of the first things that we do to achieve that is to fix email deliverability, something that wasn't a thing a couple of years ago. Nobody knew what it was. We were one of the few people out there kind of trying to get people to understand it and hear about it. It is a major problem for people that that are using email as a marketing tool. It can make or break a business if you don't do it right. A lot of people start off with email campaigns that are doing great. They did not pay attention to deliverability or some of the other things that we're going to talk about today. And they crashed and burned. I've seen businesses go from $100,000 a month in sales down to nothing in a matter of weeks. Wow. And not recover.
So potentially a big problem.
It could be a really big problem.
Thing is, you mentioned marketing, but it's obviously also normal communications because if we all speak to clients, we all speak to potential clients, and so it's not just email sequences with trying to sort of engage with and get responses and clicks, etc. It's actual normal email as well. And if we look at LinkedIn, one of our goals should be to take people off LinkedIn and either speak with them directly, face to face or a video call, or to get them on our email list to continue the conversation with interested parties, leads. So it's pretty obvious that you've said that it is a big problem. Email needs to work. So Ed, how does someone know they have a problem with their email? Is it as simple as someone telling them they found your email in spam, or are there other telltale signs even for people need to look out for?
Yeah, when someone reaches out to you and tells you that, hey, I saw your email in spam, or I found your email in spam, that's a canary in the coal mine. Most people will think that's a one-off and like, okay, no big deal. But you really have to think about it. Email goes into spam. How often do you check your spam folder? Like, I'm in the business and I might check my spam folder for my primary email once every couple of weeks. So hardly anyone checks. So if you look at the fact that very few people check their spam folder, and then the people who do, how many of those people are going to let you know that your email's in spam? So that's a small percentage. So we're talking like less than 1% of the people would let you know. Probably a fraction of 1% will let you know that there's a problem. So you can assume that's 10 times, 100 times that number when someone reaches out to you. So you should do something right then.
Yeah, so that's one factor, but you mentioned about sales dipping and you're not getting the same results. So if you're measuring your email marketing, then that might be an indicator, I guess.
That'd be a huge indicator.
Yeah. There must be other indicators, with the actual open rates and click-throughs. Is that a problem as well?
Yeah, typically what people will see either a steady decline in open rates, and they may attribute that to, well, my list is getting bigger. Yeah, you listen to a lot of the gurus, they'll tell you, well, the bigger the list, the lower your open rates. That's just nonsense. If you're doing a good job, your open rates will not drop as your list gets bigger. We have clients that have over a list of over 1 million people, and they have open rates in the 70% range, which is crazy, but they're doing things the right way. That's one. You may notice, you'll know you've got a really big problem if your open rates plummet. Like talking to somebody just the other day, their open rates were 60%. They dropped down to 3% in less than a month. Okay, I got a problem. Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem, and that means that you have to dig in there and check around. Usually, I will say that people try to fix it themselves. I think we're going to talk about that,
Yeah,
and they may go weeks, months trying to figure it out. And every day that they're doing that, they're losing money. They're,
yeah,
and it
lost
doesn't make any
opportunities,
sense.
lost
Yeah,
opportunities, and a bigger job to fix it in the future. Um,
absolutely.
Obviously, you're talking about some horror stories with, but for sort of normal situations, how big a problem is it with email not reaching people's inboxes? So from a sort of non-marketing perspective, speaking to speaking to potential clients and the marketing email, what percentage of emails hit the inbox and what percentage don't hit the inbox and go into spam?
Yeah, the big there's a big problem with that when you're talking about the one-to-one communication, because that's usually getting much closer to closing the sale in a B2B situation. So imagine you're having this conversation with somebody. People are looking for a reason to not work with you if they don't know you. They're looking for something like, oh, that doesn't seem right. Any little thing that goes wrong, that could be disqualifying. So you're having a conversation with somebody, you're getting close to getting things closed. You send a proposal. You
Yeah,
tell them, I'm sending you the proposal this morning. They look in their inbox. Where's the proposal? Like, I'm looking, where's Phil's proposal? I don't see it. And is something wrong? Uh, who is it? Did I make a bad decision about this guy?
it doesn't give a very good impression, does it?
All kinds of bad things about the other person. Before you know it, Phil, by the end of the day, I'm thinking that you're some mass murderer or something because I didn't get your,
Wow.
your proposal.
Wow.
Like people's minds go crazy when things don't work right.
Mass murderer. That's a bit far.
Maybe okay,
That's a bit
maybe a little less than that. Maybe bank robber.
far. Yeah, certainly dodgy. We've got a few people commenting. Robert says he's learning that email marketing is so important for your business. Absolutely.
Good
Uh,
morning from Metro Detroit.
Appreciate your
Right.
commentary from Joe. My marketing emails hardly get through, but even worse, after a good conversation, the follow-up email frequently doesn't get through. So
Oh oh my God,
that's Jeff.
the
That's from Jeff.
sunlight is right in my eyes here. I'm gonna have to let me fix that. I'm sorry. Look, wow. Hold on.
No wonder you didn't get my email. The sun's in your eyes. So Ed is now in the dark. This is when we get the elevator music. Ah, well, no sun, but you've got a moving face.
Wow.
Your face is
Sorry
moving
about
now.
that.
That's okay. That's okay. So we know that obviously it's important. We know that emails it is a big factor and can massively damage your reputation, but also your reach of people that you've fought hard to get interest from. What are the factors that determine whether an email goes into the inbox or into the spam or a promotion tab? There's obviously I know a little bit about it. There's technical stuff, but also the email itself could be a factor as well. So if you'd like to sort of share a little bit with us about that stuff.
Sure, sure. And I apologize to everyone for the distracting light going back and forth. All of a sudden, the sun came out, and it seemed to shine directly into my window and nobody else's here in Kalamazoo. Yeah, so the challenge that people have as far as emails going into the spam folder, the promotional folder, the primary folder, uh, it, uh, people kind of get. I'll go to the promotional folder because some people kind of freak out with maybe the percentage of emails going into the promotional folder. For some people, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It definitely is. For others, it's not. I can show you emails from a group, guys that I work with, where I manage your email account. Our emails do go into the promotional folder most of the time, but our open rates average around 70-75%.
Wow.
So it's like not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've got another client where his open rates were around average, I think around 19%, We fixed his promotional tab problem, and they doubled to 42, now 42, 45%. So it's a case by case situation, and that's based on content almost exclusively. There's some tricks that people use. One of the tricks is content at the bottom of the email where they just put non-spammy content text. Could be your privacy policy and a bunch of other stuff. That doesn't work that well all the time. What tends to work better is focusing on your subject line. And if all you do is play around with the subject line, that will get you into go from the promotional folder to your primary folder faster than anything else you can do.
So that's the sort of content of the email. But from a technical point of view, having you help me with some work, there's lots of domain name system settings and records that need to be updated as well and checked out.
The technical stuff that'll make people's eyes glaze over.
Well,
yeah,
we don't want to spend too long on this, but
yeah, we'll do it fast. It's like a shot.
Just a general awareness.
Yeah, we'll get it over like pulling off a Band-Aid. We'll get it over pretty fast. So you got 3 primary records that you have to be concerned with: your SPF records, your DKIM records, and your DMARC records. Acronyms that people will make themselves dizzy. The 2 that are the most critical is SPF and DKIM. And here's a big problem, because a lot of people will use Gmail and Outlook. If you're using business email, though they make it seem like it's really easy to set those things up, especially Gmail. It's a couple of clicks and your email's set up. You think it's set up, but what they don't do is show you how to set up SPF and DKIM. And so you go through their procedure, boom, 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 your email's live, but the instructions to find the SPF and DKIM records and install those are different. And you have to do those manually. The way you do it for SPF is you have to do a Google search for SPF records for Gmail, and then they show you how to do that. There's documentation for that. And then inside Google Workspace, to add your DKIM records, in that search bar, you type in DKIM, and then they'll bring out a tutorial for that, and they'll show you, okay, this is the record, this is the account I want to add the records to, and then you add the records. You just follow the instructions, but it's not intuitive. They don't. And then for Outlook, it's a completely different situation. It's actually quite complex. I wouldn't do it myself. I don't even do it myself. I have one of my team people do it, because it really is complicated.
So would your advice be, if we're advising people where to start, it might be don't start, and depending on how bad the problem is that, is that a fair comment? And can people do it themselves? Because obviously, if you have a problem, you need it fixed, because obviously, you want to optimize the opportunities. And some people might have. I guess I'm answering the question myself. I guess if they've got enough technical information, then technical expertise, then they could give it a go. But as you've just said, you know a lot about it, and you still wouldn't do it. So, should people even think about starting?
People think about it all the time, because they see the price of somebody charging for doing it. They may go on Fiverr, and Fiverr's pretty cheap. They may go on what's some of the other sites? And not Indeed. Any of the other freelancer sites. We typically get clients that have gone to those freelancer sites and said, what they did didn't work. And then they ask us a bunch of questions, because they've been burned a few times for something fairly simple in setting up. I will say this, that you could spend weeks trying to figure it out and still not get it right. And again, all that time that passes, that's opportunity. There's an opportunity cost to that, and you have to factor that in. So if somebody says, well, it's going to cost you $200 or $300 for you to set this up, and it seems outrageous, you need to look at, how long am I going to be down out of business if I try to figure this out myself? And that cost is way more than whatever somebody else is going to be charging you.
It's going to take you a long time to actually research and find out how to do it. And if your hourly rate is X and it takes you 10 hours rather than someone else charging $200, then even that bit probably doesn't make sense. And then you've got the lost opportunities with the extra time it's taken to actually get to the crux of the problems.
Yeah, in this case, you really can't be penny wise and dollar foolish. You really can't. And I see people tripping over a really small bill to fix a big problem, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's Robert saying that he had to set up his SPF and DKM IM manually. So he's obviously got one of those people that can improve it a bit, but it's the next steps, it's next steps after that, which we'll go into a bit more detail. So I was wanting to sort of give an example to everyone that was watching, just to think about the overall process. So I was looking at my situation of all the places I send emails from. So I have an Office 365 email account and use the Outlook app. I have an email app on my Android phone. I have a CRM that sends out automated emails. I use a webinar platform that sends automated emails. But there's also employees with email addresses, who might use them on their phone and might use them at home. So that's even more IP addresses that could potentially be problematic. So am I right in saying that all these IP addresses need to be running off quality IPs to maximize the delivery rate?
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the problems that sometimes you just can't control that, because if you're signing up for Outlook or Google, so let's say Google Workspace, you're getting shared IPs. They assign them to you right out of the gate. It's the luck of the draw. A lot of times what we see is if you set your records up properly and you test it right away, because what we'll do is we'll set up email accounts for clients. And if they're doing, say, cold outreach, we're setting up subdomains. So we're setting up several different email accounts for them, and we're testing them as we go along. And if we, for example, if we're setting up, say, 6 email accounts, 2 domains, 3 subdomains, typically we're going to find that the assigned sender IPs for at least one of those accounts is not good. Like so we send emails to Outlook, and so you got Outlook Business and you got the free Outlook accounts like 365, and then the free Outlook accounts. You got free Gmail accounts, and then you have the Google Workspace accounts, and they're all treated differently. So we may find that, okay, these emails are getting into the free Outlook accounts. If you're doing B2B, how many people are using a Hotmail account or a free Outlook account? Probably not very many. But then it's going into spam with Outlook 365, fairly common with a Gmail account. What do you do about it? Well, it's an assigned IP. There's not much you can do about that. The only thing you can do is close that account, open another one, but you need to test right away as soon as you open up the account and send emails to all the major providers, multiple emails, and see where they're landing. And if they're not landing where you want, then you need to trade that account out for a different one.
Yeah. So trading bad accounts out
right away, right? So you might have it for minutes before you test it right away. You find out that it's not delivering to, say, Google Workspace accounts. It happens. Google Workspace account to a Google Workspace account. Sometimes they don't get delivered because of the sender IPs.
Right. Wow. That's interesting. We've got some questions here. For Ed, what does he think are the 3 key ways to build your email lists? We can maybe answer that one at the end, because that's more about the marketing side of it. We're still in this sort of tech bit. So direction, we'll answer at the end. What is your suggestion for naming conventions for email accounts? For example, should you have an info@blah address or sales@blah account? That's from Robert. Is that a factor? Is that a factor?
Yeah, it is. In deliverability and even open rates, you should first use a person's name, and then for your transactional emails, info is fine. I try to stay away from sales because that could have an effect on or impact your open rates. It could end up putting more emails into the promotional inbox, because if it's coming from sales from ... and the mailbox providers are seeing a lot of them as you're sending out an email blast, it clearly looks like a promotional email. It probably is a promotional email, and if it's a promotional email, it's going to go into the promotional tab.
Yeah, so that is a factor then.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. So obviously you talked about sort of bad IPs, and does this mean when choosing a CRM and other parts of your tech stack that I talked about, webinar, the webinar platform, should is it price is obviously one thing per month, but knowing whether someone's got a bad IP or not, can you negotiate a good one if you want to use a CRM provider? And it seems as if you could be a little bit stuck. And what CRMs have good IP addresses, or is it just varies?
Yeah, it does vary. And I'll tell you that the most popular one that people will go with, which is really one of the most expensive ones, is HubSpot, which is a luck of the draw type thing. They have IPs that just don't get into Outlook. Some of their IPs don't get into Google business accounts. Sometimes it's fine for both. You really should take a look at, when you're looking at either an ESP, email service provider, or a CRM, and it kind of depends upon how you're mailing people, and we can talk a little bit about that. That's really important, because a lot of people get those confused with email marketing apps, which are designed primarily for outreach. You should look at first, what's the deliverability? What are the quality of the sender IPs? MailerLite is very good. ActiveCampaign is pretty good. They used to be ActiveCampaign used to be one of the top ones. It's kind of slipped a little bit, and it costs more than twice, almost 3 times more than MailerLite. MailerLite is kind of a diamond in the rough that a lot of people don't know about, but it works pretty much like ActiveCampaign. Deliverability is equal to ActiveCampaign, and it's about 1/3 to 1/2 the price. So you can save yourself a lot of money with that. If you're just using a CRM, ActiveCampaign actually has a CRM with it, so you can do marketing emails and use a CRM. B2B business, for email, you should be using more of a CRM, and we're going to talk about this near the end, as opposed to emailing like you're doing B2C. The types of emails that you send and the frequency that you send emails when you're doing B2B is a lot different. And there's some things that we'll talk about that you should look at, because a lot of the information that people are being told, for like, one of the big questions I get is, how often should I mail my list? Mm-hmm. And the answers that most people will give is like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, every day. All wrong. Bad advice. Really bad advice. I'll tell you what the right advice is, and we'll get to that towards the end.
Ooh, we're on tenterhooks.
A cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly. What I took, the big standout there, what I took from that is, price doesn't equal better quality IPs, because
it doesn't.
HubSpot it's not one of the cheapest CRMs, that's for sure. And if you can get bad quality IPs with HubSpot, then wow, that's a bit of a challenge. It
is. And right now, you really can't negotiate better quality IPs. Could you give me a second to give an example? Because I've got like 2 live examples right now with clients that are going through this, that we fixed everything, and the only thing that's a problem for getting their emails in the primary inbox is the sender IPs. They went from a 40% open rate down to 2%. And the problem is it snowballs. So you start getting spam complaints, and then you start getting bounces, email bounces, and unsubscribes. And then what the ESP does is they downgrade your sender IP. That then in turns lowers your IP reputation, your domain reputation. And now you've got all of these things that are going negative in your way. You're getting very few people seeing your emails because they're either being blocked or they're going to spam.
Mhm.
And you've got to fix the sender IP problem, because you could fix everything else and you're sending on bad sender IPs, it's still going to go to spam. So what the ESPs and the CRMs do, you reach out to support, you say, hey, can you fix my sender IPs? We did everything else that you asked us to do. And the first thing that they'll say, the playbook's the same for everybody. Check our blog post on this. Say it's delay. It's like, we're not going to do anything. And the reason why they're not going to do anything is because you may be paying them $500, $1,000 a month, and they don't really want you as a client because you're hurting their sender IPs. They're not going to take you off the bad sender IPs for a while until you repent from probably a couple, 2 or 3 months. And they're picking up $1,000 where they used to just suspend your account, kick you off. Now these companies have stockholders, people they have to answer to for profit. That's a lot of money. You can't kick thousands of people off because right away because they screwed up. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a month in revenue. They're going to string you along for a while. They're going to keep telling you things that you should do that'll fix the problem. Where the problem is, it's on their end. It is changing the sender IPs. And eventually, sometimes they will change them. But you have to harass them. You have to contact them constantly. And it's better just to move to another
really?
ESP.
Even if you provide them with loads of evidence that you're doing all the right things and you're getting bad results.
We're doing that with 2 clients right now, where it used to be, until they went public, it used to be that if we fixed everything and then our team would go in and negotiate, because they know the language, they know the secret handshake of these guys. And a lot of times our guys are consulting with their email deliverability people to fix problems on their end, and then say, hey, can you do us a favor and switch these sender IPs for our client? And we can't even get that done anymore. And it's because they've gone public, and there's a lot of money in holding on to clients that their emails are not going into the primary inbox. Mm-hmm. That's free money for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what I'm picking up is, you can set everything up and getting a fully functioning email system with all good IPs with a bit of a struggle. But, it's not just a set this up and leave it. You do need to maintain it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you do. And so, what you want to do there, and I'll point out where people will make mistakes. If you're using email for cold outreach, you need to use a cold email outreach app, something like Apollo or Lemlist or AutoClose or Woodpecker. Those are for cold email. You cannot use those for marketing email, subscription type emails, meaning somebody opted in and then you're sending emails to them. No one reads the terms of service of any of these companies, including Google and Outlook. It is against the terms of service just to add people from your database into their system. ActiveCampaign, all of the ESPs want to see a double opt-in. It's buried in their very long terms of service, very boring. Nobody reads it. And you got to hunt to find it. But that language is in every single one of them. So what we find, the first mistake people make is they go, oh, I've got this big list of people. Maybe they've talked to you. They've got a targeted list from LinkedIn. They want to add that into ActiveCampaign, and then they send out emails from ActiveCampaign to that list. Cannot do that. That'll get you shut down faster than anything, because it's not a double opt-in. They want double opt-in, not single opt-in. So when you start running into problems, that's the first thing they check. Where'd you get this list? And you got to tell them the truth, because you most likely have a high percentage of spam rate, you have a high bounce rate, and you have a high unsubscribe rate. Those are the 3 things you need to look at. Mm-hmm. So the spam rate has to be less than 0.1%, like 1 in 1,000. If it's above that, that's a red flag. The bounce rate has to be, let me make sure I get this right. The bounce rate has to be 0.5%, 0.5% bounce rate. If it's above that, you run into a problem. Your unsubscribe rate needs to be less than 2%. If you have any one of those three things happen, that's a flag for the ESP to downgrade your sender IPs, and it's kind of a death spiral after that.
Yeah, so that's where the maintenance comes in, and you need to check your numbers about what's happening with each campaign.
You do, and there's the kind of lead in to the question that we get asked a lot: how often should I email my list? You should email your list based on those three metrics. What is my bounce rate? What is my spam rate? What is my unsubscribe rate? You can sign up for Google Postmaster Tools and watch. You can see the quality of your sender IPs that you're on. You can see what the spam rate is, because your ESP, your email service provider, isn't going to provide the spam rate, spam complaints. It's called the feedback loop. And Google gives you access to that information from Google accounts. So you want to sign up for that and watch that number, and you want to watch the unsubscribe number, which would be provided to you by your email service provider or whatever marketing app you're looking at. So let's say that, one of the things that people will tell me is like, well, I've got this LinkedIn event coming out, and I want to mail to them leading up to the event. So I want to say the event's on Wednesday. I want to mail to them on Monday, and I want to mail Tuesday, and I want to mail on Wednesday morning. And if it's at 3, I want to email Wednesday at noon, and then I want to mail just before the event goes out. Okay, that may be fine to do. And logically, from a marketing standpoint, that makes sense. Follow up, that's going to get people there. But what you should be looking at is, what's the spam rate? And I can guarantee you, the more emails that you send in that tight frequency, you're going to get spam complaints. You're going to get opt-out, people opting out. The bounce rate's probably not going to go any higher. But here's the problem. And this is the thing that drives me crazy with gurus saying mail frequently. I just got an email from a well-known email guy saying, well, if you're mailing to your list B2B twice a week, increase it to 6 times a week, you'll make more money, which is just crazy, insane, stupid advice.
Yes, well, they're talking about being top of mind, though, aren't they? They're, the people that are, wanting people to turn up to their event, they're thinking, right, everyone's busy, so I need to make sure that they do turn up.
Well, that's the problem. Here's the thing that nobody looks at, because we look at the data all the time. The people who are making the spam complaints, the people that are opting out, are the most engaged people on your list. Those are the people that are most likely to buy. So you're making the buyers mad at you and leaving you. It's costing you money. It's the most foolish thing that you can do, but it's the most common advice that we hear.
Yeah. Yes, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky balance, and I guess it's about frequent emails that are frequent enough, but not too much. So you're getting that balance between making sure people turn up and not impacting on your deliverability.
Well, as soon as you see the numbers go above the limits, so you send out the first email, you're under the limits. You send out the second email, you're right on the border. You send out the third, you're now over. Now you're making money short term, but it's costing you money long term, because you're losing people that would have bought both now and in the future. So once you go over those limits that I mentioned, that's when you have to stop. So it's not a set number of 3 times, 4 times, whatever. Once you hit the limit, you can't do it anymore.
I guess, though, you need to sort of see, you need to be monitoring it regularly, because if you're setting up a campaign and you go, right, here's my email sequence, and then you don't get to the punchline and you have to stop, that's obviously a tricky one to stop. If it's that last one, an hour before the event, for example, and you're already in the sort of redlining it with problems with the metrics.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about following those metrics is they're pretty consistent. So
Right.
you can tell, like, okay, I know from my list, they will tolerate me sending 2 follow-up emails before the event in the day, but they will not tolerate me sending 3. 3, I get my hand slapped. 2, they're cool with. And
Right.
that's going to carry on for as long as you do things. So you need to figure this stuff out the first time. So you're going to make some mistakes, you're going to lose some people, but don't keep making those same mistakes over and over and over again.
Yeah. So there's sort of best practices that you should adopt. We sort of touched upon this a little bit, but bringing this all back to LinkedIn, and it relates to the question from Direction, which I think is Angie. One of the goals of businesses should be to grow your email list. So obviously on LinkedIn, you build relationships with people, and then the content you can engage with them. What are the best practices should people use to grow their email list from their LinkedIn activities? What would you suggest?
Well, first, I suggest getting in contact with you for building a good targeted list. And you and I are going to be talking tomorrow about things like that. So the list targeting is key. You want to get it as tight as you possibly can. I don't like moving people from LinkedIn to my email account unless I ask them, are you cool with me sending you an email? So you need
Or,
to ask.
or you basically they download a resource that requires them to give you the email, for example. That's a tactic, obviously.
It is a tactic. One of the mistakes that people make with that tactic, the lead magnet tactic, is okay, I sign up for this lead magnet and you send me the lead magnet. High open rates should be 80, 90%
Yeah,
open rates for that first one. And then they tail off. And the reason why they tail off is because I got the thing I wanted. And what are you doing mailing me now? You didn't tell me you're going to mail me any more stuff. What is this? It's spam. You got to tell them you're going to mail them more stuff, and you need to tie it to what they just got, that lead magnet. Like, there's more stuff I want to tell you about this, how to use it, other resources that relate
yeah.
to it.
So it needs to
If
be
you don't tell them, it's spam. It's one of the big mistakes people make is I got somebody on my email list. I didn't tell them I'm going to keep mailing them, and I didn't give them a reason to look for my emails when I send them.
yeah.
It's common sense, but people really don't think about that part.
Yeah, well, you're sort of destroying a relationship that you've already got. You've got some interest, and then you're taking it too far too quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, you're so succinct, and I can just ramble on.
Well, LinkedIn is all about relationship building, and you know, working with people that are interested in the help that you can provide, and obviously people that are leads, people that have shown interest and are at the starting point of help. You can basically obviously engage with them and hopefully take them onto a Zoom call or something, and see whether you can help them. But obviously signing up for webinars, that's obviously a way that you can grow your email list. But then it's also the danger that they don't want the next webinar that might not be related to the webinar before. But you were talking also about B2B marketing being different from B2C. Could you maybe go into that a little bit more?
Sure. It's the types of emails that we send. So these email service providers were set up for B2C marketing. And then the B2B people found out about it and go, wow, this is a great communication tool. It's inexpensive. It's a lot cheaper than running ads. I can stay in front of these people. I can get a message to 100,000 people in a couple minutes. What we tend to do is we follow this B2C model where we're sending out promotional information, or like it's more like a newsletter.
Mhm.
And that's a B2C type approach. A B2B approach is you send resources. You're maybe talking about gossip that's going on in an industry. You're providing information about the latest tools and updates on the industry. That's completely different than a newsletter, typical newsletter where you're talking about yourself or the latest event that you have. You take that information and you tie it to what you're doing. So you're getting people, if it's a news information or if it's a tool that they could use, you're going to get people clicking on that to see what that is. That helps your click rate. If you're asking questions where they can reply back to you, that's going to help your domain reputation because you're getting replies. The mailbox providers see more engagement, especially replies help to ensure that you're going to get more of your emails in the primary inbox, that you get priority treatment because you do that. And so those 4 or 5 topics are the ones that you should be sending. And once a week, twice a week is enough to get your point across and promote your business so that most of your emails you get in the inbox, you should be looking at least a 50% open rate and ideally at least a 10% click-through rate. If you're short of those numbers, you're doing something wrong.
Right. So back to metrics again and watching them, which
boring math. Jeez, Ed, don't bore me with
math. It's just tracking what's going on, and if it's going the wrong way, then you need to change your approach.
Yeah. Exactly. And business people are looking for information to grow their business. If you're sharing with me information to grow my business, I'm going to open your email. I'm going to find it in a sea of over 600 emails that come into my personal email box every day. I open maybe 3, and the 3 that I open are emails that are related to me growing my business. They've convinced me that I need to open this because it'll impact my business in one way or another.
Yeah, and if you've sent them something of value previously, then there's the trust factor as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Lastly, it's basically 42 minutes, Ed. You can talk.
Time flies. Yeah, diarrhea of the mouth I got.
No, it's all good information. Are there any final tips you'd like to leave us with?
Email marketing is by far the most profitable marketing channel that you can pursue. It is for every dollar that you spend, if you do it right, for every dollar that you spend, you'll make $36, $42. That's on average. That's a grade of C. If you do it exceptionally well, for every dollar you spend, you can make $300, $400, $600. For every dollar, it's $600. So when people are thinking email is dead, it's boring, there's other things, other cool, shiny things I should be doing. If you figure out how to do email right, and then you merge it with LinkedIn, combine it with LinkedIn and email, you're set. You'll have a business that will generate leads, qualified prospects to talk to all day long. It'll solve many of your business problems as far as how do I get quality clients for me to talk to and work with. Yeah,
definitely. So Ed, you've obviously given us some great information. So for the people watching, how can people get in touch with you if they're looking for your help?
Well, I would say go to my website, email-open-rate-optimization.com, but go to my LinkedIn page where I provide the most information there, and you can reach out to me with a DM. So I'll just type in Ed Forteau or Mr. Deliverability in your search box in LinkedIn, and you'll find me.
Good.
The guy with the hat.
What's that? Sorry, the man with
I'm the guy with the hat.
Yeah, well, you've got a different hat on from the one that I put for the sort of cover photo.
Yeah, rotate them out.
Different day. Ed, thank you so much for joining me today. To the viewers on the live and to those watching the replay, many thanks for tuning in and for your support.
Thank you for being here, guys.
No, thanks, Ed, for coming. I hope you've all picked up some useful insight, because I certainly have, and I'll be speaking to Ed more afterwards. So thanks again, and see you on the next episode of LinkedIn Uncovered. Thank you.